The other day, one of my viewers asked me if I wanted to try out their tool. So I thought I'd press record while trying out the tool and give you my first impressions. This video is not sponsored and I will share my honest thoughts with you. And heck, this video isn't even scripted, so let's see where we end up. I value your time, so let me use the magic of editing and see what future Philip has to say about the tool, so you know if this video is worth a watch in your situation. Hi, this is Philip from the future. So I just finished the process of the video that you will see in a moment. And yeah, I want to give you a quick review what I thought before you jump into the video. How I understand Crit, it's a nice little tool that you can add into Claude Code, but you can also use it just in your terminal. And to me, it fits into this gap of you want to review something, but you don't want to jump to GitHub and have the review comments there. Or if you have a front end and you want to point out specifics about this front end and give Claude Code feedback on it. So it really shines in combination with an AI agent. So you will see me later also use a plugin with Claude Code, and then you have a /crit command that you can use in order to create a review loop. And I like this workflow. So as you see me mentioning in the video later, it fills this gap of having immediate feedback and pointing specifically something out in a file or front end that other tools can do as well. But yeah, Crit really looks like this little tool that you just plug into your workflow. And I think it could be really useful. So I hope you enjoy watching the video that is coming and might give Crit a try. So see you in the future or the past or whenever. Okay, let's get started. So you can find the tool on crit.md. So that's crit.md. I'm not entirely sure what crit stands for here. Maybe it's about being critical about your code, because as I understand the tool so far, it is helpful for you when you want to review your code or you want to give Claude Code or your agent in general some feedback about something you're working on when you have a plan or something like that. So here I'm on the website, and it also has a GitHub repository. So here you can see who made the tool. So I hope I spelled this right. It's Tomasz Tomczyk. And he has put quite a bit of work into the tool. So let's have a look at the commits there. So it's over 600 commits. Of course, our friend Claude is in there as well. And yeah, they're quite active in the production. Another thing which I like to do as well is when I check out tools is looking at the issues. So are there any critical issues that have a bunch of comments there? And here it looks like that he's taken good care of it. And we have 112 closed issues, which is also a very good sign that, yeah, they are really taking care of any issues that are happening there. So that is a great first impression regarding the repository, also that there are a few forks and over 100 stars. So that gives me a good feeling that I'm not making a mistake of getting this tool on my system. Looking at the website, it is honestly not 100% clear how it works. So we'll explore it together, but that shouldn't hold us back to install it. So we have different ways of installing it with Homebrew and Go install. So I think I also saw it on GitHub. It's written in Go, so that's nice. And Nix and Windows. And there is also a binary that you can use, which you can find on the GitHub releases page. That's another good sign. If some package has releases, that means they have their development process in line, and that's always a good impression. I will use brew install, and to do that, I will jump into my terminal, which is here now, and the command is brew install crit. So let's get it on our system. And while we are installing Crit, I already need to think about in which project I want to use it, because if I would use it in an empty folder, I don't think there is that much that I could do with it. And to understand the first steps of Crit, let's hop back into the browser and check out what they are saying about getting started. So we already have installed Crit. And then they suggest to connect them to your agent. So here would be Claude Code, but it's nice to see that there are, I think, all the harnesses and agents that I can think of in there. So that is nice to see. And I think you could even build your own connection. But there is also the direct crit command. So you can point crits to a file, and you can also have it detect changes on a file. I'm more curious about this crit command right away. So before we connect crit with Claude Code, let's quickly check crit alone. So if we are typing crit, and then let's have a look at the README file. So the README file should be here. So it's in uppercase, readme.md. And now when we're running it, crit starts a server locally. So it looks like nothing is leaving your machine, which is nice. So let's move the browser that just opened here. And there you can see my README file. So we have the lines here, and it's very similar to GitHub code reviews. But what I like is that it's here on localhost. So crit starts a server and opens that page on that server, and we don't have to have it on GitHub. And I think what we now can do is add some comments to it and ask for changes. Now, since I don't have it connected to Claude Code, I'm honestly a bit confused about where those changes would go. Let's add one here. So with the plus sign, so I think it will be, it works very similar to GitHub code reviews. And once I let it go, I can add a review. So for example, please change the headline to Coco Draw only. So we don't have this full thing, the full line here. So now if I'm clicking comment, we have the comment here, and that is it. I think with update, I could get any updates in if they are available. I will not press it right now because I'm not entirely sure what happens. Instead, let's investigate the bar here. So it's very similar to GitHub. So we see the amount of comments. There are some settings that we could adjust. So we can change the look. So we can have it in dark mode and bright mode. There is some different views, default, wide, and compact. And we can hide resolved commands. So nothing of that is really new to you in the sense of you will find your way around. If you have worked with GitHub, there are shortcuts, which is also nice. And in about there is a little bit about crit, but more about the current session probably. And I think now I also understand where this file will be saved. So there is apparently a little .crit folder that is in your user folder with the reviews, and then we have this ID here. So let's see what happens when we say finish review, if it actually points us to that file. It says review complete, agent notified. I guess that's not entirely true because we don't have an agent connected. Copy the prompt below if it wasn't listening. So that is relevant for us because we don't have an agent connected to it right now. And here, I guess, would be the little ID behind it. So review comments are in, and then in a .crit folder. And then you see a few tips going through it. My immediate reaction would be that it could be nice if it would be in the project and not in the user folder, but I might not have found the settings for that. Okay, so I copied that, and yeah, what I could do now is that I could open Claude Code and paste that. But before we do, let's have a look what was blobbed here. So there was a daemon started, so that's what we saw. And then there is some output here where you then can see where the review was saved. And actually it's in a review JSON file then. And I think that probably the that JSON file will look very similar to that JSON blob that we have here. Let's open Claude and paste what we got back. And yeah, that here says a little bit more than what we had in our grid view. And here I'm honestly a bit confused because it doesn't say what we were seeing here, like review comments are in, but it gives a completely new prompt saying review comments array not tied to any file. Read the file, address each unresolved comment in the relevant file and location before acting. Check each comment's reply array. If you have already replied, the reviewer may be following up conversationally rather than requesting a new code change. For each comment, reply, explain what you did using crit comment, reply, and so on. When done, run crit readme.md. So maybe it was me not copying it correctly. Let's try it again. Let's click finish review. Let's click copy, and then I will open another editor and paste it in there to see. Okay, so apparently it was truncated by Claude Code. So there was basically the last part here that we saw, but it starts with review comments are in a review JSON. So what happened was basically that crit only showed us that first part and Claude Code only showed us that last part, and everything is there. And now I'm curious what Claude Code will do when I just press enter. So let's see if Claude Code knows what to do. And later we will install crit as a plugin, so then Claude Code will know more about crits and probably the loop will be a bit tighter. But now I'm more on the side of let's see how we can update files with this flow for now. So now we need to allow reading in this review file, the review JSON, and then Claude Code makes exactly the change that we wanted to have. So that is very nice. So let's accept that change. And then there was this other part of it, like, hey, when you're done, please comment on that. Now it would run a bash command, crit comment, and then some comments there. So let's see what happens when we're doing that. All right, so there is this little comment here from Claude. Change the headline to Coco Draw only, removing the blah, 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 blah. So that is nice. Let's see. Well done. And reply. Does it react to it here? I don't think so. So that is probably the part where the plugin and that loop might make more sense, because at this point, I think it's not interactive in that sense, or it will only be sent once we finish the review again. So maybe let's say something. If you can read this, okay, so with add I can add files into the comment. So if you can read this, Claude, reply with a comment. And once we finish the review, I'm curious if the agent is actually notified. And I think, yeah, that is pretty smooth. So that was nice. So you could see that immediately a few tokens were running there and it replied right away. And it will also say, yes, I can read this. So let's see it on the grid page and jump back and go back to editing. And there we see Claude's answer. Okay, so I like that. For me, the little part where, yeah, I haven't read the documentation, so it's on me. But yeah, the moment I was finishing the review and sending it over to Claude, it wasn't entirely sure what then will happen. But now I have a better idea of how this loop works. And if I would continue to work on the README file, it's actually kind of nice. And for me, what stands out at the moment is this inline commenting, which I really like. And if you're just using the terminal, it's a bit cumbersome to point out minor specifics in a plan or in another file. So that is pretty nice. The other thing which Crit apparently can do is visually help you with pointing things out. Here I'm in my drawing application. This little drawing application is a fork of Excalibur with a few features that are personal for me. And it has been a while since I worked on it, so I think it's a good example. And I have a little bug in there which I want to fix, and that is that there is some kind of button that went off guard and is here almost not visible. So my idea would be to move this button from here, maybe down here to these buttons. And I want to use Crit in order to help me do that. So here I'm on the Crit website again, and we already did the installation. Now we want to add the plugin to Claude Code. And for that, we first need to add the marketplace, which is very usual if you're installing plugins that are only on GitHub. And then you need to install the actual plugin. It's also nice to see here that there are many other tools we could use. We are currently using Claude Code, so our first command that we need to use is Claude plugin marketplace add and then the repo name. So let's hop over to the terminal again and paste the marketplace install command. And once that is done, we need to install the plugin. Perfect. So the plugin is in my user scope installed, which is fine because if this tool turns out to be useful, I want to use it in different projects, so that is nice. And now let's verify that everything worked by jumping back into Claude Code and type plugin, which brings us to the plugins page. And if we go to installed, we see that the Crit plugin is there. By pressing enter, we can see some more information. And also, look how this little Claude mascot peeks over. The other thing is that I want to look at the marketplaces. So there we can see that the marketplace was added as well. All right, let's escape here again and have a look at what we want to do. With the plugin installed, we can now use the Crit command. So it's /crit. And there we can also see the description, which is review changes, a plan, and a live page. That is what I want to do. But you can also check local files, which is nice. So after /crit, you then need to point the tool to the file or the URL. Let's copy my localhost URL. So that is that one here. Jump back into the terminal and paste it. And check out what happens now. All right. So it opens a browser at a different localhost URL. That's what I expected because it is another server running Crit and then looking at the live page. So the live page here is on the left side, and you can also see here this little button that we want to fix, so that is nice. I'm wondering if I could navigate in here. Yeah, I have my scroll bars, so if our button would be on a different part, we could navigate there, but okay, it's also nice. We can change the sidebar here a little bit, so in order to see that. So yeah, it basically is an iframe that loads the page. We have different views. So we have mobile, tablet, desktop, and fit. We have a comment view, so that toggles our sidebar. And then there is navigate and pin. I'm waiting if I see a tooltip because I don't entirely understand what pin means. So let's click it. Okay, so now I think Okay, that is nice. I was a bit confused about the naming. So what happens is with navigate, I can navigate my website. And with pin, I can now point out certain parts of the website. And that is the moment where I can navigate here to this button and click that button and then leave a comment for this button. And that's what I want to do. So I was a bit confused about pin, but now that I know what it is, I like how it works. That's what made me really curious about this grid tool, is pointing things out. That is very similar to the dev tools in Chrome. Or if you have used the cursor application, there you also have a browser view where you can point out things. And maybe probably, I'm not sure if VS Code has this by now as well. And it is super useful when you're working with the front end and you want to point out something. And Claude Code by default is a little bit annoying to have this feedback loop. So I can already see a bit how Crit can fit into this little niche of being a tool that I can plug into Claude Code and then point out things in my front end. So what I want to do is now to move this button somewhere else. Okay, I want this button to be in the footer next to the mute button. So the mute button is that other button down here. Let's comment. And okay, and now the pin mode is on again, which kind of makes sense. We first want to finish our comment and then continue with something. So let's pin a comment there. This is my enable drawing sounds button. That was a feature I tried to develop where if I'm drawing that I have like some scratch sound, which sounded horrible, and I haven't removed that button yet. I will keep the button for now. What I want to do now is to just point Claude that this is the button that I want the Save Current Style button next to. Put the Save Current Style button left to this button. All right, comment. Because how I understand it is that Claude Code will get all the comments and read them as a whole. It's not just that it goes into one comment, acts on it, and then goes to the other one, but it gets the whole review, acts on it, and changes something, hopefully, and then continues with the work. Before I click Finish Review, I want to have a quick look at the user interface here. So we probably would see our navigation here. That's not that relevant for my application at the moment. We have the comments that are open or can be resolved. I can actually resolve them, I can edit them, or I can respond to something. I can also delete them and then collapsing and expanding them. And I'm not entirely sure what R1 is, but it shows the time, so that is nice. All right, let's finish the review. And now the agent is notified, so it's already canoodling in the background and wants to check out the review file. So that is a similar flow like before, which also makes sense because I think that the plugin for Claude Code is this nice wrapper around the Crit tool. And as you can see, also the ID is different now, and I will allow it to read from that folder in there. I still have the same feeling as before, where I would love this review to be in my project, because probably in .crit there will be a bunch of IDs which I have no idea where they are connected to, and therefore it might be hard to go back. The other question I'm having there is, do I really need to come back? Does it really make sense for me to come back? Maybe also not. So maybe it's fine that it's out of my project. That is usually one of those things where the developer of the application has put in more thought than I did, and where as a developer you might push like the user feedback aside because you thought for hours about it and the user just has this immediate feeling for a moment here. Looking at Claude Code now, it will make the changes. Yeah, let's allow all edits and go on with that. In general, you would, of course, have a closer look on what's happening and so on. But where is the fun in that? So for now, let's just break things and know that we have crit on our side. If something breaks, we can just get into the loop again. And yeah, probably the save style button was somewhere else and now is dragged into probably the footer where the other buttons are. So as I understand it, we were sending the review, and the review was the suggestions about in which file, at what line number something should be done. So I think that would be nice to investigate in a moment, actually, how that looks. But for now, let's finish the implementation. And yeah, what you can see here now is just Claude Code working on that. So I was just interrupted by Claude because it was finished. So it said, move the save current style button into the footer. It's now rendered in app footer, so that is nice. And it was also commenting here that it was placed next to it. So here is our button. Woo! Let's have a look that it really is not there anymore. It is not. And now I also understand those numbers. I remember when I was confused about the 2 down here. So what it does is, if I am creating a comment, I guess the pin here is pointing out the spots where I added a comment. So if I'm clicking the 2 here, I'm jumping to the comment 2. That is nice. However, what if I would want to interact with the button underneath that? So maybe this should only show when I'm actually in the pin mode. And yeah, then I get, it's again one of those hard developer decisions. Once I'm in a pin mode, I want to pin things. And once I'm in the navigate mode, I want to navigate things. So I'm not sure if maybe a third mode would make sense, like a comment overlay or something, because I like it to see these comments. But yeah, what if I want to interact with elements that are there? All right, so these are the numbers. And I guess we can say resolve. And then the numbers also disappear. And I could now approve our review. So what happens if we click approve? I wonder what Claude Code does now. Okay, so it just is happy that everything worked, no further comments. Okay, so that is nice. So that basically would be our review loop. And now we can also close that tab. And I guess this one here as well. And we also don't need to have a look at the README file. So now I want to continue with having a look into the crit folder. You can find the .crit folder in your user folder, and there we have sessions and reviews, and they are probably connected, yeah, with their funky IDs. We have our F72 ID, which I remember because I have such a good memory, as our README file, and the other one was our button change. But yeah, this will be hard if I have more of them. But again, maybe we don't really have to have a look at that anyway. But I'm in investigative mood, so let's have a look at it. What the session JSON is doing. So here we have our session JSON, where it points to a working directory and the arguments, which usually are files, and branch and review paths. So that is nice, that makes sense. And now let's have a look at the reviews. And here I'm more curious about the save button review. So in this folder, we have a snapshots JSON and a review JSON. Let's have a look at the snapshots JSON first. So what I understand here is that this is probably the URL, and this right here is some comment addition. I'm not entirely sure if some comment maybe it's the total amount. I'm not entirely sure. But again, I probably also don't need to really know what exactly that does. That is something more internal. The part the reason why I'm looking into that is because I'm curious what we are actually sending to Claude. What is the prompt that comes back? And if we have a look at what it was sent before, it was, let's create a new file and paste one prompt that we had. So it was basically pointing Claude Code to this review.json file. And now I want to look what is actually in there. There are branch keys, which are maybe also something more crit internal, because we should be on the main branch. And there we have the URL as the arguments, which is nice. And then we have the comments with my nodes in there. So how does Claude Code know at which files to look for that? And I guess that comes from this object right here, where it sends a DOM anchor, which then gives a path to an element. I was saying before that it gives a line number, which might make sense if you have the file open, like a README file, but here, obviously, when we are on the website, there is no line number in that sense. Yeah, it gives a path to that element, and then Claude Code needs to figure out how to find that element. And that is generally an issue that you have when you don't have some dev tools that connect the source files with what you're seeing in the browser, because what's rendered is not what's in the file, if that makes sense. We can just throw some hints at Claude Code saying like, hey, our button has this alt text, like find in my project the file where this button is defined based on these information bits. And the information bits that we are sending are all these little bits in here. And one thing I like about Claude Code is that we can throw this question back. So I'm curious, like, how did you figure out where to find this button just based on this review information? So let's jump back into the terminal. We're still in the same session, so that is good, because then Claude Code knows what to work with. And now we'll use the voice mode to babble my thoughts. So when I was giving you the review request with the crit tool, you got the review JSON file. How did you find the button in our code based on this file? Just give me a high-level overview of how you ended up finding this element in the code. Something like that. Let's see what Claude Code is giving us an answer for that. There we go. All right, the crit JSON didn't point at code directly. That's what we were having a look at, and I would be super surprised if that would have happened. It captured a live DOM. Each comment had a DOM anchor block. We had a look at it as well. That's describing the exact element you clicked on. The bridge from that source was string literals. All right, the steps, high level, were looking at the outer element, outer HTML, CSS selector, accessible name, and role. And for Claude Code, then the outer HTML was the gold mine, as it says. It contained the literal class, save style button, and drawing sound toggle, and the text attributes. And then it grabbed for these literals and then traced the mount points. So essentially rendered DOM string, source string match, and then a component usage side. Makes sense. Okay, I think that concludes my little journey into crit. What I like about it is that I can just use it as a tool that I plug into my Claude Code workflow, and I have this visual representation and this visual code review site where I can really point out things, being it a line or being it elements on the page. That is nothing that is entirely new, but I like that this tool is so lightweight that I can just plug it in and I don't have to adopt a new browser or an editor in order to get these features. So my personal opinion here is that it fits right into this gap for me of solving some issues that I'm having when I work with front end. It could also help me when I really want to point out at parts in files, which is nice, but I think for me, it's more this front-end bit that's really a nice feature that I know from other tools, but like the lightweight way how Crit implements it here. And now I also have to be careful with repeating what future Philipp from the beginning of the video said. So I think I will wrap things up here, and then we'll record my bigger review that you already saw at the beginning. So it's a bit mind-twisting. Yeah, shout out to Tomasz. Again, this is not sponsored in any way, and I guess you also heard some critical comments in this video. And I suggest check it out. I can totally see it fit into your workflow. And that's it for today. See you next time.